so we'll call the meeting to order. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I motion to approve the agenda.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Oh, I'll second.
All right. All in favor of approving the agenda? Aye. Motion carries. We have an agenda. Moving on to item 3, public input. Thank you for coming. The public is invited to present petitions, make announcements, or provide other information to the commission that is relevant to the scope of authority of the City of Blue Lake that is not on the agenda. The commission may provide up to 15 minutes for this public input session. To assure that each individual presentation is heard, the commission may uniformly impose time limits of 3 minutes to each individual presentation. The public will be given the opportunity to address items that are on the agenda at the time the commission takes up each specific agenda item. At this time, would any of the public like to comment on non-agendized items? Oh, Kent and then Emily?
I don't know how many of you saw on Justin's thing, but first 15 minutes of 15 or 20 minutes last city council meeting might be informative to you as far as some of the reasons why we're having a problem, getting people to participate and be wanting to do businesses here. I highly recommend you see that if you haven't. Linda, I can't remember her last name, but she's down at the tap room, had her say. Linda, I think she listed her little thing on there, the proud year. Anyway, she had her say, and of course, others have supported it, which is basically some reason why. Now, part of the reason they've had before is, there's a perception out there that anytime we said we have a perception we don't have or would not have sheriff's protection out here, she says people seem to be less likely to come out here. It's kind of you have nothing. So I keep track of that. So I did an email this morning, which was responded to me at 8:27 by William Hansel. Question was, have we paid yet? And the answer from Mandy has not yet paid. And then regarding Regina Fuller, again, I feel this is relevant for you to know. This one came in to me at 9:09 a.m. this morning from Regina Fuller, who's Deputy Director of Financial Support Services for Humboldt County Sheriff's Office. Regarding payment, the total amount due for FY 2023-24, $190,000 some change. The City of Blue Lake has paid $146,450. At the City Council meeting on July 23rd, the Council approved a budget amendment to pay payment of $44,235 can be made to bring the account currently. As of this email, that payment has not been received. Last week, I reached out to the City of Blue Lake, letting them know that the check has not been received yet. That's where we stand. And it's something, if we're not paying our bills in Blue Lake, and if people are not comfortable because there's a perception we may no longer have sheriff's protection, I think that's a major thing. Those of us who have businesses here really appreciate having law enforcement. I made a complaint regarding an RV park that's been like 3 weeks in front of the Emporium building down, an RV down there. It's been there for quite a while. And that the individual, as near as I could tell, was told that he could park there until he got his the RV working, or it would be towed down by city employees, possibly down for him to have down on Taylor Way. And he referred to that person as Mary or something like that, but that was not who he talked to. I think it was our city manager. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Emily?
Hi, everyone. My name is Emily. I'm the Parks and Rec Director, but also the former president of the Chamber of Commerce. We had our last meeting yesterday, and I've been doing a lot of thinking and thought it would be the best decision for myself personally to resign from that role just due to the nature of how big of a role it is. And Justin over here has been such a great asset to our community. He was our secretary. So I thought that's a little more fitting to the level of involvement that I'm comfortable with at the chamber right now, just due to my full-time job with the city and wanting to focus more on parks and recreation. So him and I, there was a motion for us to switch roles last night. So Justin is now, as of the next meeting, the new president of the chamber. And I just want to thank him for all of his dedication and time that he's put to Blue Lake. And he's been such a great support to help get things going. And I look forward to seeing what we can do as a community moving forward. So, yeah, of course. Of course. Thank you all. Just want to make that announcement.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, Adeline Jones, Mayor of Blue Lake. I just want to clarify why I'm here. We did have a resignation on the city council, and that person, Elizabeth McKay, used to be your liaison from the council. I am the alternate, so that's the position that I'm taking this evening. As alternate and as a liaison, I feel it's best for me to be in the audience and let the commission here act in your independent way, and I'll be just as the liaison listening and learning from you. So thank you for your service.
Thank you for clarifying that. Julie.
Um, Julie Christie. I'm sure most of you know me. I'm really happy to see a great audience here, a great respectful pool of our peers and on our commission here. I'd like to go back to what we talked about. I think it's probably been like 2 or 3 planning commissions ago when we were discussing back on that USDA grant envisioning plan, where we were also spearing some thoughts and ideas about kind of generating that survey kind of thing once again to figure out what our priorities of longevity businesses could be here in Blue Lake. I think that's something that food is always so popular. I mean, we have so many little assets that really draw people and bring them in here. We have some things on the agenda tonight that might be other things. But if we can just keep always having those envisioning plans and involving the community in a way that it's a bigger message that other people that might be investors are aware of it all the time, that we have this space out here. We have this stuff, like let's make something happen finally a little bit. And I know it's really, we're at like this dead end kind of sphere of influence here where we're competing a lot with internal other businesses that can give us more affordable costs and stuff like that. So again, I really think it's important we figure out what our sales tax is on online sales and maybe try and specifically do a survey really on what online sales are. Like, what are people buying, like during the holidays? Is that where it like was that where it peaks? Is it during like all times of the year? Some people just order food to their homes anymore using Amazon and stuff, and elderly people. So just to kind of figure out what are we all like buying, and I try and do local business all the time and barter and stay involved with that. But I think that's one of the things that's really going to keep us economically vital, is that we're actually, there's fun little things that are turnkey, but things that are seasonal, things that can be here as commodity provider throughout the entire year. Not just something that's cool when the sun's out or, when other things are happening. And as far as Kent was mentioning, I think that was very valid because a lot of businesses are now having a lot of trouble with theft. We've seen that locally here right now very substantially. And so that's always a big thing that, when businesses know that they have public protection and stuff like that, they're more happy to invest and put themselves out there because they know their stuff that they're investing is protected. So just throwing that out there is a very valid point. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments at this time? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to move on to agenda item 4, which is to approve the minutes from the previous commission meetings, which we have attached in the package. We have May 14th minutes, and there was no meeting in June, and we have minutes from July 9th. Is there a motion to approve the agenda from the minutes from May and July? Thank you, Cindy. These are beautiful.
I was cranky.
I can imagine.
So you need someone to make a motion to accept those
Minute. Yes, we're
minutes?
looking for.
I could do that.
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Does the public have any comments on the minutes from May and July?
Make a clear. Once Darcy said and seconded, You would open it to public then?
Prior to the,
In case I accident, and then.
right. Okay, other,
Just.
thank you for calling that. Thank you. I'm glad you're paying attention. All right, so there are no public comments on the minutes. Kent would like to comment on the minutes.
I'd like to thank your secretary. I think those were some of the most accurate minutes that I've seen come out of any of the commissions here, including even more accurate than some of the things like planning commission and city council meetings. So thank you very much.
Pat on the back, grumpy.
You're hired.
When you're grumpy.
Okay, so moving on to item 5, the retail cannabis ordinance discussion, and it's also listed as an action item. We had an ad hoc committee and had a little bit of opportunity to do some fact finding. I'm waiting to hear back from the Rio Del city manager. I was inquiring about how they're if they're having any issues, what they would do differently, what they like about it, and how it's working out for them. And Darcy had an opportunity.
Just sort of looked into it as if I would be a customer. So if you Google like dispensaries, there's about 30 of them. I think from Willow Creek to Riadel. I don't think that I saw one in Trinidad, but McKinleyville, Arcata, Eureka, and they seem to be like open at 10, close about 10. And then they seem to promote the local cannabis. So, and I don't know, some of the sites look pretty professional, you know. So, but I didn't get a chance to talk or to anybody face to face or on the phone. But
Great. Well, thanks for doing that.
well, we're
Taking
doing
that first step.
it's a first step.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know if the commission has any questions or other direction, but I think, it's a good start to, being able to ask some questions and see how it might be relevant to our own community.
Yeah.
So,
Came up with a list of questions
oh, great.
that were pretty thorough, and we'll get out there and ask them. Might take another
Month, yeah. Does the public have any comments, or did you have?
No, I didn't. I'm just happy that you guys actually met because I was like, was I supposed to or make an
No,
arrangement?
but we could maybe follow up and just make sure. I'm sure there's some bushes to shake about this. Kent, did you want to address the commission?
Being in the supervisors' chambers, which were the tip of the spear in this business for many years, I tracked this quite closely. Today, we had a thing come before the supervisors. It sounds like the federal and state government are turning the whole weed upside down. It sounds like what's going to happen is that they're going to allow hemp with a lot higher THC content to be grown nationally, go across the borders, so it's not taxed. It's a whole different scenario as far as that particular business goes, and it sounds to me like the governor's pushing it. Last minute bill, which may be voted on tomorrow or something. The supervisor are trying to have input within a couple of days. It's to be pushed. Anyway, if you go to the supervisor's agenda today, you can look up the bill if you wish to make comment or research that for yourselves. What this would do, it would be allow people to grow hemp with a lot higher THC, refine that hemp, or use it just for strict whatever medicine level you want it to. But you could take the THC and refine that to however you want. Totally transportable across all the borders because it's a hemp product rather than a cannabis product. Sounds like it's a little bit of a backdoor. Of course, soon thereafter, they're probably going to go ahead and declassify it as far as being an illegal drug. And again, that will enable it to go back and forth across the state lines. So if that happens, then you'll be able to buy it through Amazon or anything like that. And of course, we just get a little bit of tax, as Julie was mentioning earlier, as far as that stuff goes. But that seems to be rapidly changing and may change in a few days here. So you might want to kind of keep track of that. Of course, it's really hard to have a business when you're competing with Amazon, or you can buy it at any at the grocery store, or you can buy it up at the gas station and stuff like that. So um, things are changing in that business. Just I let you know. The other thing that came forward was the county does not have regulations specifically for developing venues. Now, there's a guy with 40 acres. He wanted to put in 1 acre, and then he wanted to have a spa, swimming pools, make it a destination, basically. And he had an investor from, I think, out of the area, I think New York or something, who was interested in investing in this. But the county did not have the regulations that would allow that at this time. So I'm guessing from how positive they were regarding that potential income source, they would be developing that very quickly through Humboldt County Planning and Building with John Ford there. So those are a couple of things regarding that business that I observed today.
Thank you. Anyone else relevant to the item 5 retail cannabis ordinance?
Julie Christie again. I was also watching the supervisors via just live. I wasn't making comment, but the points that Kent made were very valid. Access Humboldt will have that recording up probably by tomorrow. So it might be something good to review. And if you could look back through Eureka's too as well, I'm sure you could do a public records request just through the city of Eureka, and they'll send you gals anything that has already been through their processes and stuff like that regarding ordinances that they put in place. One thing I've noticed watching their meetings is that not putting a cap on Eureka's really kind of hurt that a little bit. And as Kent's mentioning, if they blow the cap, they're it's going to be what it is. But that's good reason that if we really want this, maybe if we do really want this. I don't know if we want it, but it's been brought up. But if it's something that it's gonna go into the future, this new bill and stuff like that would kind of make it irrelevant to even monopolize it out here potentially. So there was some resources that was on the supervisors to write in against in support of the bill either way. But I just feel like putting a cap on them here locally is probably our best incentive so that it's kind of not giving all the businesses an opportunity. However, it will ensure that one business could potentially be successful. And again, take advantage of Eureka. I have public records requests, and they would definitely hook you gals up with everything they've already gone through in this process. I think that'd be really productive.
Thank you. Jean.
Well, now I'm confused.
As far as I know, with hemp, if you grow hemp in an area and you have a crop of marijuana, the cross pollinating between the marijuana crop and the hemp crop will destroy the marijuana crop. So this is all confusing to me. So have you heard any of this? No, I'm an old hippie. So so if you kind of look at that and see what the um, interchange is or what's happening, I would be careful of that process, hemp versus marijuana, the wording. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Was that the round out the comments here? We'll probably have an update on whatever we can find out at the next meeting, but it sounds like Mr.
Yeah, I think what we've seen at the council level is really just being open to the opportunity if
If
if it
for
were to
some
present itself. It's not the council has in no way stated that this is a priority business that they're looking to attract, but they're more interested in reducing barriers in the event that a business did feel that they had viability and wanted to invest. So why create a barrier for something that someone wants to take on as a business opportunity? And that was something that was discussed when we wrote the original regulations for the city when we did ban commercial. Was the idea that in the future the city could relook at retail, like small scale retail. So like I said, in no way have I heard anyone state that this is a focus industry or a focus business sector that that they're looking to attract, but just removing a barrier in the
It's
event
also
something.
potentially some shrinkage that could be recaptured in the community.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think we're ready to move on to item 6, the vacant commercial property ordinance and discussion. And there was attachment in the packet here from the Eureka ordinance.
Yeah, so this is an item that we've talked about in the past, and I wanted to bring this back to you as Eureka is also looking at this issue, and I thought this was an opportunity to continue that discussion about vacant buildings and blighted buildings in the community that the city has concerns about. Eureka, I think every community wrestles.
He's doing it too.
Yeah, so Eureka took this through kind of a first draft review, and the city council, had a lot of comments, and they're working through this idea and concept. But I wanted to bring it back to you guys as well because I think it's a good opportunity to kind of see how this plays out through their process, and then to see if there's anything that the commission wants to pursue um, or look into or adapt or modify to meet the needs of Blue Lake. So, like I said, this has been on your radar a number of times. We've talked about this the last couple of years, and so I wanted to just bring this up and provide some additional context of what other cities are doing at this time as well.
I had a question about the definition of vacancies because
Mhm.
sometimes there are multi-unit buildings where you may have a percentage vacancy or one unit may be being renovated and not turned over. Um, and also working in economic development, sometimes we find property owners who will take on a derelict building that might be a very heavy lift or a big project with the
Absolutely.
intention of like getting one unit at a time cleaned up,
Mhm.
ready for occupancy. And those can be they're tricky to finance for sure
Mhm.
because banks don't want to lend on buildings with high vacancy or condition issues. So you need somebody who's going to be a cash buyer with
Mhm.
also deep pockets for construction, renovation, and whatnot.
Right. Yeah, I think there were a lot of questions raised at Eureka at their meeting about this process, and I think there was some thought that maybe the time frames need to be adjusted, that there does need to be some concessions for reasonableness. I think the main intent really is to focus almost through kind of just like the nuisance process and not really a systematic approach. But as you have buildings that are creating issues, that are um, creating a nuisance or a blight in especially a downtown area, that those would be more of the focus. But there were concerns that I heard about, the length of vacancies and the effort that landlords and owners are going to try and attract um, businesses or tenants, and also financing or making an effort towards cleanup or viability for their.
So is the carbon plant still listed for sale?
It is, yeah, yeah.
What what is written there about what Eureka said for the other things? Oh, access. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I can provide you a copy too. They have a just their draft ordinance, but I can provide to you afterwards so I can read it. It's my only copy. Yeah, I think there's got to be a reasonable test for, vacancies, and if you have a property that just continues to decline, if there's no effort being put in to take care of that building, if there's no effort to invest, at what point does it become a burden on the community and become a burden on the other tenants and businesses and property owners in the area as well. And I think that's what's going to come back from Eureka's discussion, was maybe synthesizing that and tightening it up a little bit more so that there's um, there's, kind of the carrot and the stick, as people are making efforts, that needs to be recognized because there are a lot of, the older buildings, they do take a lot of money to fix up or bring up to code. And, that can be a huge barrier. But at some point, if nothing's being done, then, how do you really handle that situation?
Well, it's like we were saying earlier about the perception of law enforcement
Hmm.
being available to the community. I mean, if people see derelict properties, it also creates an impression
Absolutely.
that, that maybe, yeah. So it's something.
One of the things that Eureka had done is a lot of it initially when they were talking about the vacant building ordinance is police calls
Hmm.
to that particular address.
Right.
And that was, that would be, you could justify it by saying, it's kind of a crime-ridden little spot there.
Yeah, attractive nuisance.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's where this ordinance is going, is trying to provide additional alternatives or options for enforcement because the nuisance abatement process is really difficult and it's really expensive. I mean, at some point, it really just becomes the municipality who has to take on the issue, make the fix, and then you end up basically just leaning the property, hoping to ever get your investment back. And so I think this is another avenue outside of just the straightforward nuisance abatement process where you are um, using various techniques to be able to incentivize property owners to take care of their buildings.
Is this going to place a lot of burden on city staff to enforce something like
Yeah,
this?
and I think that was one of the things that was brought up through the process in Eureka's discussion is, what does this entail? Do they have the resources to be able to police this? Are they going out and actually monitoring buildings? Is there a process for
Is
evaluation?
the complaint
Is it?
based?
And I think that's what they came back to is that they probably have a small minority of businesses and buildings that create probably the majority of the problems. And so having tools to focus, but not stretching yourself so thin that you're out searching for the problems. The problems are pretty apparent with many of these buildings. And so um, I think their next draft will have some additional language, talking about that and kind of what those trigger points are as well. But at some point when you have a building or buildings that are creating health and safety violations or community impacts, you can't. The city has to take those on. It has to step in and
Does
make
the
those
Are there
enforcements.
fire inspections that happen? I know I can remember that happening in buildings where I've worked in
Hmm.
Eureka.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's part of this process.
yeah, some of the tenancy requirements do trigger regular fire inspections. There's health and safety codes attached to those. There's additional inspections, based upon your tenancy type. So yeah,
Is that
those
a
are all
bigger stick? That's
aspects.
a bigger stick than nuisance, maybe?
Yeah, I think that's part of the enforcement process.
Okay.
But ultimately, if you have landlords and owners who just aren't making any progress at all, and I think that's what this is, really looking at is when you have a property that's not making any effort or any progress towards compliance on any level, then what do you do?
Well, those
And
may
so
be
having,
absentee landlords,
and I think probably in Eureka, there's probably quite a few of those. Yeah.
and the probate process can be
Hmm.
protracted,
Yeah.
which I think is maybe impacting other vacant property down there.
Yeah, I think Eureka has a whole, scope of
It's an
issues.
old housing stock,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah. Yeah.
We had, when I was working there, city attorney went after one of our notorious landlords. And, and so she was successful
Hmm.
in getting some of that property, updated or great. I mean, it was taken away from him,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then it was fixed.
Right. Yeah, and that's another part of that nuisance abatement process. But it's extremely expensive. And
have
for
to
a small
hire
community, it's, you know,
a
it's pretty
trustee.
preclusive.
You have to
So,
decide where you're spending more trying to deal with the
right.
nuisances versus fixing the
Yeah.
nuisances or
Just the litigation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and I think, you know, one of the things they talked about was the imposition of fines and then how those fines, and we talked about this before, you know, if you do fine someone, could those fines then be used to go back into, you know, so, you
could
know,
it
it
just
costs you
become a lien?
$10,000, but we'll release that 10,000 back to you to put into your building, you know, to bring it up.
The vacancy tax.
Yeah, I think, you know, I think the vacancy tax for Eureka was a little bit more complicated because they do have a much larger retail sector. And, you know, and so thinking about, you know, what really triggers that, what is a normal or reasonable vacancy versus just a prolonged vacancy because you're not interested in making your building attractive or, you know,
There's some
so,
areas that evolve and change
mhm,
and become empty and you
yeah.
grow somewhere else.
Right. Yeah. So I think they, with a much larger retail footprint, they obviously have, you know, a real mix of issues. Um, but, you know, it's an issue that's not, I mean, Blue Lake has this issue as well, you know, and so at some point there has to be some mechanism to deal with it.
I do like that with the fees and fines that it's available to the landlord to
Hmm.
make the improvements. I like that.
Yeah, I think that's a great way. I
It's a
mean,
good carrot,
It's
isn't it?
fair.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, why would you want to take away resources and not provide them to go? I mean, the goal is to put resources back into the property to make it viable again. So pulling those resources out, you know, just creates another economic burden. So I think that's a real reasonable solution and makes a lot of sense.
Is there other small communities similar to Blue Lake that we've looked at their ordinances? This is really so much larger of a
Hmm.
problem and a different kind of problem because
Yeah,
of just this being more city,
More
that to
urban.
compare
right.
something else to.
Yeah, originally we did do a pretty wide sweep looking at, you know, different cities and problems, and it's so pervasive across the nation that it's a problem on every single level, is what we really saw. It's something that comes up even, you know, through the League of Cities and, you know, different, you know, municipal advocacy groups that, you know, people are struggling. COVID was a big part of that. You know, look at San Francisco has had a huge downturn in certain sectors of their retail. Uh,
Retail has become a much more challenging
it is.
sector
And
with
as we move more to a lot, you know, to more online shopping and things, and, you know, there is that transition point, but there's also that responsibility to not allow your property to deteriorate, especially in a downtown retail setting, you know, that really impacts the rest of, you know, the
There's
tenants.
people sleeping in your entryway in the city. It doesn't
Hmm.
want to police that or make a change in there. How would you be able to even
Hmm.
handle a business? I
Hmm.
don't know how people do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, it's as, you know, as buildings age, they get more and more expensive to work on as well. You know, so you get to a point where a building starts to become not even viable anymore because the amount of money that's required to go into that building to even bring it up to a standard or a compliance standard is more than what the building is worth or more than what the building can rent for as well. So, you know,
tenants aren't able to bear all the
yeah,
cost
no,
increases.
you
And we
can't.
also have pressure with insurance rates
Hmm.
rising, and it may be unattainable in another year or two.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot of issues. But I did, like I said, I wanted to bring it back to you guys because this has been on our agenda for, you know, a couple years. We've been talking about this. The council's talked about it a little bit. But just seeing kind of a local government, you know, take the next step. Um, you know, I thought it would be something for us to track and see. There may be at some point, there may be aspects of this that we think might fit better for Blue Lake, and we'd like to pull out and consider moving up, you know, through the council level for consideration.
It's definitely something that's needed.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you. Are there public comments? Kent.
Well, I have the honor and privilege of being on the Business and Political Committee for the Eureka Chamber of Commerce. And so we had a Zoom meeting on this particular topic. We were giving quite a few, and of course, I'm dealing with, I think the guy who owns the Times Standard chairs it, and we've got all the Eureka business people that are participating. And we had many suggestions as far as this was just a draft. A lot of this draft's already been changed, and we had suggestions, but I'm pretty sure will be well received. A few changes, like right now, it's so you have an appeals process, and it goes to the city manager. And there was not a single person in there said that should be going to the city manager. They already have their input, but you should have an impartial appeals board, may possibly with 3 people is what's supposed to be, one city employee, possibly not the city manager, but it was to be a majority of it were to be the business people who kind of understood this. So it's an interesting concept. You'll find that in this particular thing, there were all kind of constraints and reasons they would say you're building. Like if your landscaping wasn't what they thought you should have, you weren't mowing your lawns, if your paint was peeling. The unfortunate thing they have, of course, this is not commercial. This is for commercial and residential in the
Oh,
city.
Eureka's ordinance.
Eureka's ordinance, my understanding, is both. And so what the problem you would have then is why would you enforce? Let's say you had a building that was unoccupied, had a little bit of paint things that all need to be moved. Why would you enforce that over a building that was occupied, but was in way worse shape than that particular thing? So there is a legal issue as far as parity goes there, and I'm guessing maybe the city of Eureka and some of the other places may find that that is challenged on that basis. We don't know. So anyway, like you say, it's interesting to see what's going on there. I think Blue Lake needs a Cindy Trobit in there. I think the building project I got parking places. I think was the thing that, and they also have facade grants. They have facade grants, and that applies to the outside of the buildings. If you have those kind of things, then you're making that tool available. I don't know if you still can get redevelopment money or whatever that was coming from. That got shut down, didn't it?
Yeah.
But anyway, that's pretty well would be fairness and equity, and that you would be expecting somebody to do that. But you, even if it's a 50% grant matching funds or something, you get a lot better respect out of carrots on the things, and there'll be a whole bunch of constraint there. But it's an interesting thing to watch, and I think let it sort out, let them test it through the court system. I don't think Blue Lake needs to have a $500,000 lawsuit because somebody got irritated because they weren't treated with equity. The other thing I wanted to point out was in these forums, there's there's a perceived thing in Blue Lake that some people are getting. Well, basically, we're competing with Blue Lake, with the city property. You have a kitchen here, and if people are not leasing that kitchen or a facility at market rate, then they're competing with us, and that in itself is a gifting of public funds. So we want to watch out. I know it's a lot fun to have incubators and move people around, but that kind of thing is in itself illegal, and the city council and everybody's responsible for not gifting public funds. And part of the determination is if you're competing with the public sector, that makes it difficult for businesses to come here. So,
Catch what you just said. Could you repeat that thought
sure.
process?
Okay. So part of what a perception is, and it is called gifting of public funds. If a city has a facility and they are not leasing it or renting it out at market rate, then that is enabling people to get a business or do a business for less than what it should actually cost them. Therefore, that's unfair competition because other people might be paying 50 a dollar a square foot for something, and the other person was getting it for free or something, such as a kitchen or something like that. So anyway, that's the concept. Is that clear to you, Darcy, or not?
I think so.
Okay.
So
I think you can research that. I'm sure you can go gifting of public funds, and it'll tell you exactly how that works and things.
it's not. I don't get where that's happening. Do you have an example in Blue Lake?
I haven't done the research, but there's been in the past been people who've just been kind of given the right to sell or do things. I know in your circumstances you pay a certain rent down there for your space, but there's a public perception that some people haven't been paying market rate and receiving that. So I'll do some more research.
Is equitable the market rate and
What you would well, you would have to do a research on that. Obviously, as I was saying, there's not a demand for commercial property out here. So obviously, with no demand, your ability to receive money for that is minimized, if not non-existent. So there are ways to determine that. You have appraisers who would do that. Things like they did an appraisal on Aaron McClure's water tank, and there's market rates you can determine for different things. So I would totally agree with you. It's going to be less in Blue Lake than it would be in some of your high commercial areas because there's just not the demand here. So it's your ability to make money off of a certain asset. So that's kind of what's dependent on, as far as I can tell. So anyway, you might want to do a little research and see how that's working. If the Economic Development Committee wanted to put together an ad hoc committee to research rates and things like that and find out how that all works. Thanks for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Jennifer?
Get back to the subject at hand, the vacant properties.
Thank you.
I feel like that's a huge problem in our community, and there's a lot of people who seem to be against building the whole Vanco thing, saying, well, we have places right downtown that we could use. And I've been hearing that for like 20 years, whereby we are a very small community and we're very polite, but there are certain landowners that are unwilling to improve or give their properties to businesses that might be able to improve their properties. And it's just a real elephant in the room because our community is so small. So, and our downtown is only about 2 blocks, so it's kind of straightforward. Yeah. That's all I have to say is let's take care of our own home before we're complaining about how other people's homes look.
Julie?
I have to apologize going back and forth. I have 3 11-year-olds having a blast and checking in. So, I actually had already listened to Eureka's city council. They only had 3 council members present during that meeting too, so they didn't really get like a full good response back. Definitely was tabled. For the same reasons for like the last 4 times we've been trying. I think in the last like 2 years, I don't know, Mandy, it's been, I mean, this is at least number 5 try to do some kind of crunch down on vacant buildings. This, however, was shot down in the same way at Eureka with putting out more of the incentives over the penalties. Like that was a big thing. Fernandez was in Leslie. They both were very adamant about those things too. They know how crucial that is. And as Jennifer said, we're very small. Like to compare us to Eureka's ordinances is like the birds and the bees. We can't really compare us in essence, but I just wonder with planning commission, we could have a lot more discussions of ADUs and stuff. We just have not had planning commissions for a while. But a lot of times when we're like even at Eureka's, there was all the commentary on the economy, the expenses, just all that stuff and the investing and making stuff easier, the permitting, you know. And so a lot of this discussion is great for you guys to be involved with it, but a lot of the action would have to be recommendations, in my opinion, from Planning Commission because they're the ones that are going to have to enforce this stuff. Eureka actually has their own code enforcement crew. A lady spoke very thoroughly on that at their meeting. And they even were like, yeah, we're kind of staffed, but not staffed. So they don't really rely on their internal, like they have an outside staff that takes care of that stuff. But obviously, bigger demographics, we're small. But I just, again, we always kind of keep getting these themes like over and over again, and they'll get the same response, but then time will pass and we'll get the same theme again. So that's always interesting. Just saying.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jean?
I was thinking on the city of Blue Lake has an abatement program, which it goes and there are inspections from the city, and if the property is a danger, that's already in the ordinances. So I'm not quite sure why we would need to grow larger on the issue. And during this economic downturn, I don't see the wisdom of forcing people right now and maybe possibly costing them money to develop a property that they own, they pay taxes on. And I'm sure any property owner would say, well, that's my property. That's not the city's property. And who are you to give me $1,000 fine when you're not in here sweeping and gardening and painting and paying the bill? So I'm not quite seeing myself, I'm not quite seeing the wisdom of thinking that anyone that owns a piece of property, it's their property, should have oversight from a city government uh, that is in fact the city government is there to take care of certain items, which is not to take care of public property. It's supposed to be taking care of the resources. Huh? Private. Thank you. The sewer, the water, and making sure that there's safety. But to come in for public property and say, okay, well, you need to clean up your yard, or this is a fire danger, which, by the way, the city of Blue Lake has nothing to do with the inspections because the district is separate from the fire district is separate from the city. There are no uh, interaction with the fire department and the city on that. So anyway, that's just my thought. And thanks for your time.
Are there any additional public comments on item 6, vacant commercial property ordinance?
No, and I can just bring you guys back some updates as this moves through the process as well, and kind of see how it plays out. I think you know that uh Jean brought up the issue of nuisance abatement. That's kind of your end result. That's kind of like things have gotten so bad that that's your last opportunity to step in. So I think what this ordinance is about is stopping that from getting to that point, because that's almost like the conservatorship type last
That this
last
can be
effort.
costly
So
for
this is
property
something
owners.
that can come in and nip the process, early on before it gets to that point, is the kind of the thought behind this. So, and absolutely people, have private property rights. This isn't anything about, talking about what color you can paint your house or your building, or what kind of flowers you can have. And we have rules and regulations throughout our zoning ordinances. We regulate what kind of fence you can have, the height, their setbacks, what kind of roofing material you can have, height restrictions, use types, parking, uses and restrictions and numbers. And so the city does uh, have a lot of responsibility when it comes to um, maintaining properties to certain standards, and that's to also um, protect other private property interests as well. So, there is a role for the city to play. It's really, I think this is helping to refine and preclude some problems before they get to a point where it becomes so costly and so burdensome to take them on.
And maybe they'll come up with some good ideas for this in the
Absolutely.
process.
I'm all about letting other people do all the work. So,
Okay, so moving on to item 7, Blue Lake branding and signage project update discussion.
yeah. So, at the last meeting, I brought you guys some of the branding imagery and font types, and we took back. Darcy had saw the frog. I could not see the frog until I saw the frog, and then I couldn't stop seeing the frog. And then I pointed that out to Noah, and he was like, "No, I don't see it." And then all of a sudden, he's like, "Now I see the frog." So we all definitely saw it once it was pointed out to us. We saw that. So he made some changes to the mountains to break up the symmetry. So we're moving forward with the use of the imagery to get us started. We did order a couple of signs to just see how they look in the community and what scale as we continue to work through this process. going into fall and winter and just building our branding strategy. We really needed to clean up the entry sign coming into Blue Lake, the plain blue downtown Blue Lake with the orange arrow. So we'll be replacing that sign, and then also the sign at the Powers Creek entryway as well. So that'll be kind of the start. We can kind of see what it looks like, see how people react to it. And like I said, we'll continue to kind of grow this branding strategy as we continue to move forward. But we should be receiving those signs here shortly, and we'll be getting those installed. So that'll give us a good first look at kind of a frontal approach to that, and we'll see, and we can make modifications if we start to see things that we don't um, really resonate with, or if we really like it, we want to grow it, we want to expand on it, or we want to transition that into other opportunities. So yeah, so that was good. Thank you for that, Darcy.
I'm sad I missed the frog.
Yeah.
More like a totem.
Yeah. I think it was because the two mountains kind of made it look like two eyes, and then you could just, it all just started to pull together. Like, but yeah, that was a good catch. So, but yeah, Noah's been really great to work with. He's got a lot of great ideas. He's really excited to work with Emily in Parks and Recreation. We're going to be developing a line of merchandise for the bike park and just really focusing on highlighting recreation in the community. The nice thing about that logo he worked on is it can translate across a lot of different activities, and so we're excited to kind of use that and kind of get our feet wet a little bit at moving into a more professional marketing approach. So and that's been that really started with this commission years ago when we very first started talking about signage and branding, and
And
it's taken us a long time to get
we
here,
also
but
needed wayfinding. We
we
needed wayfinding so
mhm,
that people can put the billboards for their businesses on 101. If there's no wayfinding signage between 101 from to the
right.
the tap room couldn't put a sign on 101 advertising.
Yeah, and we still have some real gaps. The county still has, and won't remove the sign that says there's lodging going to Corbell and the industrial park is this way. I mean, we still can't get rid of that sign for some reason. So I think as we start to have this more professional layout and things, we can present that also, because that was one of the things that Caltrans wanted and the county wanted was you have to have your font type and size and colors and all of it, and it has to be able to work on their sizing. So there were a lot of constraints that we needed to work with. So I think we're bringing on a professional. This is what Visual Concepts does, and they have the expertise to do this. So having that extra help is great, and I think it's going to help us in a lot of different ways. We need a new sign for City Hall as well. The borough is about ready to fall apart. And so we'll be looking at some of the stuff that Noah's coming up with as well to help us with that. And these are a little bit lower cost entry points for us, as the signage is pretty inexpensive, but as we work with the Chamber of Commerce on possibly refining our gateway sign coming into Blue Lake, there's the chamber sign also needs some updating and some rehabbing. We want to work together so we have this nice coordinated approach to informing people about what Blue Lake has to offer. So that's been great. The chamber's been a great partner through this process as well as, kind of looking at branding and marketing strategies. So that is all I have on that. If you have any
Thank you.
questions?
Questions from the commission? Does the public have any comments on the Blue Lake branding and signage project item?
I'll jump in because I'm so conveniently close. I do. I feel like there was discussion of this as an idea, but we never really set a budget. We never set an ad hoc. We never really had any formal discussion at council about designating Mandy and Emily to do this. And she just said it's pretty low cost. But after our last budget review, I think we should be looking at some of the, I don't know, we just grab stuff and go sometimes. And this is just one of those things again. It hasn't really got any public input, or we did originally have the one at the roundabout that we were collecting stuff for people that could do their own, but because people weren't sending in what was applicable or at all, then it just got kind of swept away. And I don't know how much in time and investment we had to have the presentation last time, but I think that should just be transparent is all.
So
And
you're saying there should be a budget for
well, it
the
should be some
signs?
transparency on the expenditures thus far and into the future, I think. Yeah, I mean, we're not rolling on a bunch of dough unless we still have all that COVID money hanging out. I also feel like it should have more community input. I know there's standards, like Mandy said, that if we're going to be doing on the roadways with stuff like that, we have to meet those standards.
Looks like we had a community input meeting and it lasted for a long time. People got the opportunity to make
Did
their
you see that
decisions.
reflected in what you saw the last meeting?
We also
Just
had a contest and invited, and no one
I did
submitted
one that
anything.
nobody did it. That was the reasoning. It's Justin's recorded the meetings. You guys can educate yourselves.
Yeah,
I
no
mean,
one
like,
participated.
just saying, yeah, that's why it got swooped off to Mandy and Emily without any consent from anybody else. Period.
What the fuck,
No,
no one was
that's
interested in it.
Just, well, it isn't, nobody's interested sometimes when stuff gets a little bit under the radar, too. Just saying. We haven't had any updates at council as well, or a presentation like you guys got. And we have a lot broader avenue of participants during council because we have Zoom, okay? And we have a lot more participants come. So if you're moving forward with it, I think so that people don't come back later, Mandy, I'm always that lady. Like, let's prevent an issue. I think it's better to be a little more transparent now than as we progress in it, okay? And it's not a bad thing. I mean, if you're proud of what you've produced, that's great. I mean, but just to prevent people feeling like they weren't getting transparency on it or could add input because it's been a good gap of time. Thank you.
She said, a lot of this stuff, we now may not have got the interest in a lot of things like developing the ozone. Well, people didn't participate, but when they heard they were going to be a Danco project, all of a sudden you get their attention. That's always best, it's the kind of thing where it's always nice to have choices. We do have an Arts and Heritage Committee that's functioning now, having meetings and things. Um, I think what you would be nice is if we were able to get some more interest. Now, we're getting interest in painting the fire hydrants around town, it sounds like. Maybe those same artists who would be doing that would be willing to take on a task of maybe giving their ideas. And then you just go ahead and you do the big old whiteboard and everybody gets a little sticky dot and whatever ones they like, or you put comments on your things like this about it, but I changed that. So I think there is room for some more public participation. I think public participation is the best thing. It represents all of us. I mean, it's our branding. And so I think that that's something that should be, be, uh, be participated in more. And I think we're getting more and more people in Blue Lake interested in participating in things from what I've seen. Meetings are getting more attended. Before you probably had meetings with nobody in the room. Now you have a few of us. But anyway, I think it'd be a great project to go ahead and have. The more people are involved in it, the more they feel like part of the community. And that's one of the biggest things we have here. We need to bind our community together and do things in that kind of manner. Just a thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments about the Blue Lake branding and signage? Thank you, Jennifer.
Just have to say that I think that you guys do a great job of putting out what's happening in the community and letting everyone know. There hasn't been anything that's happened in this community that I didn't know about. So the people who don't know about stuff happening, I don't understand that. But thank you very much for always making things clear what's happening. And it is the city manager's job to fulfill things for the city, and that is what she's doing. And I'm very happy with Mandy and the job she does.
Thank you. Are there any more public comments about the branding and signage project? Seeing none, we will move on to item 8, the City of Blue Lake project updates discussion items A through F.
Yeah, I might have to borrow yours.
Okay.
There you go. Great. So, as you guys have probably all seen, we've got a lot of projects going on in Blue Lake. It's a pretty exciting time. We've had a lot of projects that have been kind of all came together at one time that all got funded pretty much at the same time and went to construction at the same time. So we've been under a state of construction for a number of months now, but I think they're all really exciting, worthwhile, and much needed improvements for our community. And they're going to have a lot of long-term benefits. And I'm pretty excited to see just how the work is progressing and the quality of work and I think that's exemplified by the work that's taking place on Greenwood. If you guys have had a chance to see all the new sidewalks going in, REO Construction is doing an amazing job. They're really fast, they're efficient, they're very clean and precise with their installations, and we're really pushing the schedule right now to get the sidewalks on the east side of Greenwood installed in front of the school before school starts next week, and it looks like we're going to meet that schedule, so that's good. We are working with the school about putting in the driveway to the school because that needs an extra that all has rebar and everything in it and has some extra cure time. So we're trying to kind of work with the school about the bus being able to go in and out of that space. So a little bit of coordination taking place, but ultimately, I think the improvements are going to have present a huge benefit to not only the community but the kids, and creating a nice gateway entrance into Blue Lake. So part of what we've done is install the enlarged sidewalks on the west side of Greenwood, and that's to accommodate the power poles that we have that are installed in the middle of our sidewalks, unfortunately, but also to create a larger landscape for the kids to be able to walk and ride their bikes on the sidewalk and not be in the path of travel on the truck route, which has been a huge concern. So if you get a chance to walk on the sidewalks, you'll notice that each one of the power poles and guy wires has a bulb out around it, and that's so that we can maintain the ADA access around those. We weren't able to underground the infrastructure, unfortunately, so we've had to make some engineering decisions on how to accommodate that. But I think actually it's working out really nicely. Those bulb outs will also serve as traffic calming points, and a lot of them will also be landscaped and will serve as nice amenities and features and create more of a Gateway Boulevard entry to Blue Lake rather than just kind of a straight stretch. There will be 2 raised crosswalks as well, and those will be, I believe that the entries will be stamped concrete, and then we'll have, we're actually talking with the Arts and Heritage Commission about doing an art crosswalk as well in front of the school so that it provides just more vibrancy and gets people's attention, but also has a little bit of an artistic value as well. There will be the flashing radar signs as the kids cross or people cross the street. They'll be able to hit that button and the signs will flash. So that will get people's attention. Um, New drainage is being installed. And then at the end, the roadway will all be repaved and restriped as well. So we've got a lot of failing infrastructure on Greenwood. The roadway is definitely alligatored a lot and is failing in areas. And so this will repave all of that. So that's a really great long-term investment. And then obviously we had a lot of failing sidewalks on both the east and the west side that will now all be ADA compliant and accessible, which is really exciting as well. So that project is moving forward. We were just talking about a project schedule today. We're looking at probably paving in September. Just looking at the sequencing and looking at availability of materials. There's a lot of paving that's also taking place, so we kind of have to back into a schedule, but that will be kind of the last part of the project. The sports complex development concept. This is a really exciting project. I think I brought this back to you guys at the last meeting. This is a private property next to the city property at the power plant, and there's some pretty detailed discussions taking place about opportunities to invest in a sports complex. And this would be an indoor and outdoor recreation facility. And this is a private group, nonprofit that promotes and manages different recreation programming, including a tennis club that's been extremely successful. And they are looking to expand their programming. And this is something they've been working on for a number of years and have been looking for an adequate site. So they are pursuing conversations with the private property owner to see about either leasing, purchasing, or co-investing in the facility. So the indoor facility would include basically an indoor turf. It would be like a baseball infield that could be used also for softball, baseball, futsal, working just general workouts. It would include I believe another futsal court, a couple of pickleball courts, a tennis area, and indoor batting cages. And it would also include a small juice bar and kind of a meeting space because part of their focus is really on student athletes as well and growing athletes' capacity to transition over to college athletics and moving through the process. So I think they've got a really wonderful holistic approach to academics and athletics.
So they're in ducks with property owners at this point?
They are, yeah, and they've already done some revised master planning. They've got some pretty detailed design
But we don't have
drawings.
a purchase agreement or a purchase
Not,
option.
no, and they're those conversations are taking place. They do have investment backing, so there are dollars behind this, which is really exciting. And there's a lot of interest from the property owner and enthusiasm for the project. But it will be. No, this is actually they're talking about where B&B Portable Toilets is, Tavis's project or property. Yeah, so it's an almost 5 acres of land, and they need about 5 acres of land, and it just really makes a lot of sense, especially with the city being such a recreation community, already having baseball fields. What the region is really lacking is indoor facilities. It's a huge, huge need. So I think they've done all of their performas. They have a really solid business plan. They have investment dollars, and so that's
So it could serve the community. Would there be jobs associated with this facility?
I don't know about how many jobs would be generated, but it definitely could serve the community. I mean, I
And
think the fact that you could have, like a recreation gym membership, tournaments, kids being, I'm like my son plays travel baseball, being able to, train all year round, have indoor facilities when it's raining, workout schedules, camps, clinics,
and it could bring people into the community to maybe spend some
absolutely.
dollars here and there.
Absolutely. I know as a
Fits in with our recreation.
Yeah, I think if as we progress just in different arenas, just having those facilities just really sets us apart because it's something that's really, really needed
I
regionally.
see a lot of people east of us really looking forward to coming to the coast for some
Yeah.
tournaments.
Anywhere
and
that's not
Mhm.
100
fit right in
degrees.
with the RV park.
Right, right. Yeah, I think the connection between an RV park and campground and these types of facilities, you start to really see that you really broaden your demographic and your marketability, and especially indoor facilities. So you're not just hampered by, like, oh, it's got to be sunny and, we're only looking at the summer. Now you're talking about year-round opportunities. As an when I was playing sports, I mean, every year I went to some college for a training camp, and stayed for a week or two at a time. And so being able to have that here where people can send their athletes, for training and camps and things too. And they could just stay at the RV park and campground if they want to be closer to their children. But pickleball is a huge opportunity. It's still just a crazy fast growing sport. And so this does have outdoor pickleball courts and indoor. So I think their bases are really covered. And the nice thing is this isn't a city project. This is these people have this plan. They have the investment funding. The city's role really is to support their efforts, not get in their way. It's principally permitted in the zoning. It's something that we talked about at length through the ozone process of attracting this type of investment. So um, I think we set the stage for this type of opportunity to come to our community. So I'm really excited about it. And hopefully it'll come to fruition. And if it doesn't happen on that property, the city has 20 acres of land as well. So maybe, there's other development opportunities as well. So that's where that is at right now. Uh, oh, I did. I went straight to I don't know. Yes. Well, I did Greenwood instead of Town Square. So I'll jump back to Town Square. Town Square is kind of we're probably at like I would say 75% point. We are tomorrow we're going to be staining all the concrete, putting the sealer on. So we power washed everything today. We'll be sealing that tomorrow, so that will bring out more of that luster in the color. So we'll have that going. We installed the irrigation for the new sod that we're going to put down. The splash pad is installed and all the sprayers work. So that
Yay.
was exciting to see that turn on. So that's great. We have the new lights installed, the bathroom structure. We're working with Patricia Summit, one of our local amazing artists, to look at some art panels that can be installed on the bathroom enclosure. So we looked at that space as being an area where we could also have a community bulletin board, but use two sides of it for art panels to be able to showcase local artisans. And Patricia was kind enough to be enthusiastic to be kind of our first artist that we could showcase there. So I think what we're looking at doing is taking uh, her one of her, or probably two or three of her pieces, and then having those copied onto the vinyl banners from Paradise K, and then we'll trim them out in wood and then attach those so they'll hang as vertical art panels, and I think they'll be really pretty. Her art is really pretty. She does a lot of nature and flowers and but real vibrant colors, and so I think they'll look really nice. And then we can look at in the future, maybe we make that a quarterly art installation just to get more art in the community and showcase our local talent. Um, so we'll be also installing the trellis shade structure, and the Old Crows are going to help us with that. North Fork Lumber is donating the material. And then the Crows have said that they would like to do the installation of that. So that's great. That'll be a nice community project. So that will be going up soon. And
Maybe a
then
thank you crows on that bulletin
we
board.
we're going to definitely have a some signage that goes up thanking all the people who, committed to this and invested and saw the vision. Um, we'll be bringing the trees back. The trees are all down at the courtyard and they're doing really well. So we have, if you see, there's big squares that all the paving is around, and that's where the trees will go back in. And then we'll be bringing back the benches. We just put out some flower pots last week, and then we will be doing some of the final cleanup. And but yeah, at that point it should be usable. So our goal right now is we're going to get it stained, we'll get it wrapped up, and then we're going to move the fence back, and so we can at least get the concrete area will be usable space, and we'll be able to get the construction fencing off of the sidewalks. So we're very close to being able to do that. That's possibly can happen by Friday. So um,
This Friday.
mhm.
Really?
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see if we can keep it all going. It just, yeah, it's really coming together now. I think it's really going to be a pretty space. And it's just when you go out there, you don't realize how big the space is. Like it always felt very small with the lawn and, kind of confined. But now it just seems like there's just so much space to be able to do things. And so we're working with the adjacent property owner as well to see about bringing a food truck that she would work with, and they would rent space from her so she could have a food truck located there. And that allows us to put out some bistro tables and things so people can have lunch, their kids can play in the splash pad, and just general circulation in the downtown, and just really bring more energy there. We'll also be looking at doing, the farmers markets, the art markets, pop up music. There's electrical to support. If musicians have you know, uh, sound systems or speakers, that'll be there. And then we'll also have the installation for the Christmas tree. So we'll also be able to have lights. So that will be exciting as well. So yeah, so we're moving ahead. The Container Village Development Project, I think we talked about that the last meeting. So that is the project that the Eisner family is looking at for the city corporation yard. Kenny came over and looked at the corporation yard to look at cleanup opportunities. They own Humboldt Sanitation. So one of the ideas would be that they, we have an appraised price for the property, and one of the um, ideas that they've talked about proposing is that they would clean up the property for us, get rid of everything that needs to be removed, and then also help us clean up a space over at the power plant in exchange for a possible reduction on the purchase price, because there's a lot of cleanup that has to take place, and the city really doesn't have the capacity or expertise to be able to manage it. But someone like Humboldt Sanitation, who has all of the equipment, the disposal access, would. So they're going to be writing up a proposal to take to the council for consideration. But it seems like that could be something kind of a win-win for everyone. And we can get the site cleaned up, and they'd really like to transition that site quickly. And even if it was kind of a phased development where they start out with maybe there's a food truck and space for the mountain bikers and different things, maybe different vendors come in, or but just get the space activated, get it cleaned up and get it activated on some level. So that could be through like a special event permit process. Maybe it's a weekend events or things. But they're pretty enthusiastic about investment in the community and just the ideas and concepts that property presents. So those conversations are taking the next step. Bike park development. If you have not been to the bike park, you really need to go check it out. It is really coming together. We're on our 4th jump line. The berm is in. We had Humboldt Skate Collective was out last week. They're starting now their fundraising program for the half pipe. And so we've been talking about how the pump track will then flow into the half pipe too, so that kids on skateboards and BMX and everything and scooters can all utilize that space. So I know Charlie Caldwell with Humboldt Skate Collective, he's been a huge advocate for skateboarding activities and youth recreation, and he's super excited about it. And so they just launched a fundraiser as well. So we right now have fundraising going on with the city, Redwood Coast Mountain Biking Association, and Humboldt Skate Collective to keep bringing resources in. So
Fun.
we're way further ahead than we had ever anticipated. We've got a group of guys down there that are just like going crazy on this bike park. They're so excited about it, so enthusiastic, and we've basically been paying for equipment rental, diesel, and well, pretty much that's all we've been paying for, and they've been giving all of their time to build it, and it's just really it's really amazing. So we have had some really good monetary investment as well to kind of help with all of that. So we're getting some sponsorships, and so that's been wonderful. Um, but yeah, it's really coming along. And then we're hoping that during the Enduro race in September, in partnership with RCMBA, that we'll be able to do some type of exhibition down there to really showcase the bike park and help raise some funding. So we're talking with RCMBA and some of the builders right now about some high level riders, whether those are mountain bikers or BMX riders, to be able to go in there and do some exhibitions on riding the jump lines. And there's some pretty good riders around here that can take those jumps and go flying through the air and do their thing. So yeah, so it's really exciting,
There's
and
some good publicity coming out of that
it
too, with
will.
those videos.
Yeah, and in fact, before that came to this meeting, I was meeting with a group called Rough Collective, and they're going to be shooting a promo video for RCMBA, and they're going to feature Blue Lake. And just the idea of that Blue Lake is this community that's really embraced mountain biking, embraced biking overall, is really investing in the trails and the bike park, and just really um, using it as a economic focus. And they really see that as something really exciting and positive from the mountain biking community. So I think from what I've seen from their other videos that they've done, it's huge for bringing people out to the community. It helps support business, helps support investment, and so yeah, so I think that's going to be kind of the next step. So yeah, we're really excited to see that come together. And these groups have all been so wonderful to work with, and they recognize that Blue Lake is pretty small, and we have a pretty small staff, and they've all just really you know kind of surrounded Blue Lake to promote these activities. So it's a really kind of thing to see come together. The
coating on it before winter comes?
Yeah, our goal is to pave it. So asphalt some of the jump lines, some will stay dirt, and then some will be asphalted. I don't know if we're going to be able to do it before winter, uh, but that's our goal. We just have to kind of keep working towards it. And then it will, I mean, almost all tracks you have to kind of like come in and sort of rebuild. But the overall structure of it will be fine. But, there'll be areas that kind of get eroded and stuff, but we'll cover it too. So that'll help. And it's all being compacted and everything. So it's pretty solid, but yeah, it's definitely is going to need some additional support. And then eventually the pump track will all be, that'll all be paved. And those are really fun. So those are like, you'll see the little guys on the striders, just flowing through, but they're fun for everybody. And there's,
Part of it that's just dirt.
I think there's going to be a couple of lines that stay dirt. Yeah. Yeah, Bottlewatt Community Project. We just received the revised site plans from Garrett McSorley and Danco. The plan looks amazing. It's going through its final environmental reviews right now and will be presented to the Planning Commission when those updated environmental reports have been received and everything is cleared and ready to go.
Do we have unit counts now, or is it
I
still fluctuating?
believe it's kind of fluctuating between I want to say like 45 and 50, just kind of depending on the
How they can.
configuration and yeah. Um, Still has the retail commercial component, a couple restaurant spaces. There's a secondary unit as well. The site has really shifted instead of it having it kind of down towards kind of isolated by itself. It's more connected and flows better. And then it connects some of the parking and stuff with the other businesses. So it increases their opportunities as well. It's got a lot better flow.
How is the open space within that parcel after development?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big site.
It is.
Yeah. So there's a lot of open space. And in fact, the way it's designed, it's really designed to kind of encompass that open space and be able
Mhm.
to flow. So the trail flows in, it flows into the bike park, everything is really connected. They've built in some additional recreation space so that the recreation space for the Bottlewatt also connects to the recreation space for like the bike park. So they're not like these separated spaces. It just becomes a real
It's
enhanced recreation environment, outdoor seating, just, yeah, it really, I think the, the final kind of design really, really came together at the end. So I'm really excited about it. And it's all been coordinated, with fire and our engineers and planners and everyone have been a part of that process. So there'll be a lot of improvements that come as part of that as well, including um, new sidewalks on Broderick, lighting, and because that's going to be the connector for the kids to be able to come to school. So being able to have, we wouldn't necessarily need to make those improvements if we didn't have, a bunch of kids. Hopefully we get a bunch of kids living down there, and then they'll be walking that route to get to school. So we'll be able to make some of, proposing those improvements as well. So I think it's a really well thought out plan, and it'll get some questions, and but ultimately, if it meets all the objectives and the zoning and the requirements, it's a real hard thing to say no to. In fact, if you do say no to it, the city, would be set up for, a potential lawsuit with all the new housing regulations and things. So everything's being designed to fit within those parameters. So I'm excited. I, for one,
maybe some
think it's a
job
great,
creation with the commercial units over
absolutely,
there and
yeah,
some revenue generation
yeah.
with the restaurant.
And, just right now, it's a real dark space down there. There's nothing that goes on at night. It's a very dark space. So having people living down there, recreating, it just is going to take it it's just going to really change, the nature of the space, which
It's
is,
going to be alive.
it is. Yeah. I'm a 110 supporter of the project and affordable housing. I think it's a huge gap for our community, and it's a space that if we don't fill, we're going to really see, I think in the next few years, we'll really see a bigger impact than we're already starting to see. So,
Well, if you don't do it, they will force it.
so they don't have the financing yet. So once they receive approvals, then they'll go out for financing and they'll, pursue grants and also private investment. So it's probably 2 years down the road. But, 2 years comes really fast when things are moving ahead and, you're getting ready for development. We're seeing that already with a lot of the projects that we've had that all of a sudden they're funded and we're breaking ground. So, it's not, doesn't seem too far down.
So Stanco utilizing the tax credits for this project?
Yeah, I'm sure they'll pull together a whole financing package. It'll include the tax credits and grants, and yeah, they're pretty good at putting those together. It's a pretty complicated process, and they've been really successful at it. So
They found their niche.
they absolutely have found their niche. Yes, yes. And let's see, north side of Taylor Way master plan. Um, I think this was the same thing I reported on last month. We're pretty well done with the north side master planning along Taylor Way, and so I'll be bringing back to you guys a completed package that Storyland put together. So we basically took the original development package for just the RV park and campground, and we've added all of the additional master planning now. So we have a coordinated development plan for both the north and south side, which I came together really, really nicely, and it just helps us. It helps us on a lot of levels. I think one of the biggest things that it really helped us with was looking at circulation and where roads should go and how, what improvements we'll need in the future for Taylor Way, and just kind of pulling it together a little bit more holistically so you can really see it versus just like, one project at a time you're trying to figure out. So it's not, it's it's a concept. It's not set in stone by any means, but it's really allowed us to take a more educated approach, I think, to development ideas.
Do you think with the concept of the sports center that the original concept of the land, what is it, Wonderland?
Storyland.
Storyland, excuse me, would be modified so that you
Actually,
don't duplicate s- meeting centers and
yeah,
things like that.
and actually, we had Storyland look at their plan for the sports complex as well, and they were able to kind of tie. They did some revisions to the city's property to really look at connectivity.
Yeah.
Because one of the exciting things that could happen, we've been in conversations with Calgon as well about acquisition. Because if you can take these parcels, like we don't have to have just a single access point down Taylor Way. We can have additional access points coming in to the Powers Creek district. We can have additional trail
It could be
connectivity.
a
We
loop
can
or something.
absolutely. We can link those parcels together so there's shared parking, there's shared resources, there's shared outdoor
Yeah.
space. So instead of creating these little pockets of development that are isolated, you start really connecting those spaces. So now you are really building a district
Yeah.
versus, just one thing at a time. So that was something that Storyland was really helpful at. They're just so fast at doing it. So they took the sports complex, overlaid it, connected it. They're like, oh, we'll put a road here, this there. And I was like, oh my God, okay, so that's done, So yeah, so that's a lot of what this grant was about, was really
Tying it
creating
all
that
together.
vision and seeing how it could all come together. So, and like I said, it's a concept, but it's a concept based upon interest, at least. Not everything will come to fruition or develop exactly, as we're looking at, and that's totally fine. But you got to start somewhere. So,
Other updates about the flood control and creek restoration? I hear chainsaws back there, but I don't know what it's.
oh, that I
It
don't.
could be
That's not
anything.
us.
Okay.
Yeah. So we
Yeah,
actually just.
some trees fell behind the arena,
Oh.
and they were just cleaned up and set aside.
Yeah, so we just received our amended contract for the Powers Creek Restoration Project. And so we've revised our scope a little bit to encompass a more defined flood mitigation project than had originally really been looked at. So we've been working with our project managers at DWR, and they liked the idea of um, kind of expanding the project some. And so we went in and revised the project scope. We're a partner to the grant with Ottawa Watershed Council. So we have all worked together to kind of revise the scope of the project. DWR signed off on it. So what we're working on right now is finalizing the designs, and then I think we're going to be looking at doing some vegetation removal as part of it, and then we'll go for the second round of DWR funding for the larger implementation. So rather than trying to squeeze this project out of one source that was going to just kind of like marginally make the improvements, we're going to go for a first phase design, veg removal, and then a second phase implementation. And so DWR really likes the project. There's a couple of other funding sources that we're looking at as well that could also be partnered with the project. So I think in the end, we're going to get a really good project that's going to do a lot of mitigation for flooding, but also really enhance the creek and create a lot more opportunity for fish habitat as well. So yeah, it's all in the works and moving forward. And the new design looks really good. I think it looks more reflective of kind of the hydrology of the creek and just the carrying capacity.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is that the end of item
That's it.
7?
Yes.
Does the public have any comments on item 7 at this time, Kit?
Oh, sorry.
It's number 8. Thank you. Number 8.
I want to do 7. Um,
We gave you a chance on 7, right?
Damn it.
Okay.
Anyway, Miss McCann. So regarding the town square, this is part of the problem. Public really, we had some very nice drawings at one time. And this was part of the record, part of the input was put in, nice drawings, and it doesn't resemble those drawings whatsoever. And um, so you get public input based on drawings, and then we change the whole thing in process. One thing I think that should have been looked at, and I believe I saw the specs for this regarding lighting on that particular project, and I don't really find those light fixtures to be attractive. The light fixtures themselves are, but if I were to be engineering that, I would have those solar panels on some other rooftop and wiring to there. Because right now you've got the light fixtures. I've never seen fixtures like that before. Just drive by and take a look. Aesthetically, I think we could have done a little bit better. I think RAO, I think that's Richard A. Olson. I think that's the company, not for sure. Do wonderful work. They're doing timely. Um, Having done these kind of projects, you first thing you look at is what is the thing you're going to be done first. And of course, my first concrete pour would have been the driveway into the school. Now we have a problem with the concrete setting up and these kinds of things. I don't understand why that wasn't engineered or suggested or dealt with at that time. Right now, we're looking at maybe not being able to do it. I don't know, or at all. Or I guess they could put in metal plates possibly and put a bridge over it until that concrete settles. A lot of times it's like 21 days or so before your concrete comes up to specs. In other words, you have to have it sit there for a while before it really does what it's going to do. Um, Maybe there's some way around it, but those kind of things are put in planning construction. That's what we do. We're general engineering contractors. First thing, what do we have to done first? What's our process to do? And we always do them that way. So fantastic work. I like their crew. This crew is doing very good on directing traffic and things. The first part of the thing was a real mess as far as not having flagging. We had detours that went off to nowhere. This part of the job is going very well, and they're very professional. Their concrete work's wonderful. I've seen them out there, and very good crew. But I think my opportunity to speak on that one. Let's see. I'm just going to leave a bunch of these other things alone. I think funding is drawing up for everything, including other Danco projects, and they will be picking the ones of least resistance. Looking forward to having a town hall meeting like we did last time down at the Grange. Hopefully to go ahead and review the project when they get their new things in, so we can all look and see what we're expecting to have and go from there. Because the project is probably what it's sounds like it's maybe what's 42 units now up to 50, so something 42 40 anyway, it's about 10% larger than it was before. We just want to see what's going on down there, so it'd be really nice to have that brought to the public's attention so we can make comments on it. Take an opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments on any of items 8A through F? Seeing none, we will move on to item 9, the Chamber of Commerce report, though we did have a big update earlier. Congratulations, Justin.
Thank you. Yes, Emily came in and stole my build up there. Um, so we had our meeting last night. Um, yeah. First thing was Annie Mary Day. Um, after paying for everything, we made between $500 and $700 on Annie Mary Day. We had some input from the public. Um, there was one complaint about a certain flag that was flown on someone riding a horse. But we fortunately we had a lot of constructive, and one was event signage. There was a comment that someone was seeking medical and didn't know where to go, and someone pointed them towards the barbecue place where the fire department was. Um, but a the idea of having a sign saying, medical, that way people know, if you have a medical situation, that's
First
where you
aid
go.
station.
Um, another one was a sign for beer, where the beer was, because apparently some people didn't know where beer was. Another thing was the map for the vendors. So a layout of, say you want this to have a legend with, a map to where you could know what you were getting once you got to whatever section of the vendors were. Um, we are canceling PayPal and going to Squarespace. We are also putting a Google form together for getting some vendor input, find out how we did, what we can improve, that kind of stuff. Um, we're doing pretty good for financials. Let's see. We're talking about the roundabout sign. I know Mandy touched on that a little bit. We're looking at reaching out to Paradise K, see if they could possibly do a metal sign. Um, we don't know if they do, but we're going to ask. If they can't, then we have other options as well. Um, yeah, then Emily went ahead and ruined my surprise there. Um, and I think that was about it for the chamber.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any comments from the commission or the public on the chamber report?
I was thinking about.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
a good Annie Mary Day.
It was.
Yeah.
No.
I was thinking about Paradise Cave for the signage too.
Um, I would like to add on the parade thing. So I filmed the entire thing. It's actually on my YouTube. And I followed the final fire truck as they were coming out and then made the turn. And when I made that turn, I met the first fire truck catching the final fire truck. That was probably one of the longest parades. I think it was almost 13 minutes
Mhm.
of vehicles going by.
Watched it on your YouTube because I never get to see it.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
There was a lot of participation. It was probably one of the bigger parades I've seen in many years here in Blue Lake. I was very happy to see that. I hope we can repeat that or even exceed that next year. That speeder train was awesome.
Well received. It was free for children and $5 for adults. So that was a real.
They're talking about getting some more tracks.
Mhm.
I don't know if it'll work or not, but to get it down further somewhere.
Right.
So they're bringing in, I think, double track. I'm hoping they'll bring in their trolley car. They also have a really neat trolley car, which could actually expand that kind of a transportation thing that could bundle the two together.
I
I'll
think
be talking to them about it.
I think it's wonderful.
It brought a lot of spirit to the
Mhm.
day.
Then it started the day before too,
Yeah.
so it kind of.
It was 2 days.
And then Justin, have you given any thought to having the announcers booth during the parade?
I know there was one thing I forgot to mention, and I will bring that up.
Okay.
I, it it left my mind by the time we were
Then
talking.
you left the museum and you just left it there, huh?
I did, and I'm sorry. I will fix that.
Well, for years,
Mhm.
Annie and Mary Day, they had it was Pat Nod was
Mhm.
the MC, and it was they had a was it over by the post office?
It was the post office. Mhm.
Yeah, it's been at the
post
Mhm.
office. It was in front of City Hall one year. It's happened.
I just think it would be nice to have someone announcing who's coming up next.
The wonderful thing about the improvements to the town square now
Mhm.
is the
Yep.
availability of power, which will
Mhm.
facilitate the ability to power speakers, which would power a microphone, which would facilitate the very thing you're asking about. So, yes, that is something that, again, with the improvements that the city is making, will make something like that far more viable.
The steps are all there. Congratulations for such good planning.
Oh,
Really. It's not easy.
we just begged everyone. Oh, are you coming? You need to be in our parade.
It was really fun to see how big it got.
I was really excited that so many people stepped up. I mean, we outreach to everyone and their brother, every contractor, and, to see, we had the big logging truck and, the other trucks and things. And yeah,
Marching band.
yeah, we got lots of bands this time. The trash mashup group was awesome. Bridget did an amazing job. And yeah, it was really fun. So I don't know. Sean and I were scooping poop that if Louis missed it, we were coming with the bucket parade. So I don't know. It seemed like it went really well though.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was, even though I was not there, I was doing pies.
And the museum did very well that day.
We
as
did.
well.
Oh, good.
It was so nice to see so many people come in and they would make the comment, "Oh, you're open." I mean, I wish we could be open more, but we're volunteers.
Yeah. And I think that was the most cars we've ever had in the car show as well. So
That looks like that's becoming.
it's
That's what
very
Glenn said.
popular.
Yes, we've
Yeah,
recovered from the pandemic slump.
I think so.
Games were more than a
Oh, yeah, the Grange breakfast was amazing. Yeah, you guys sold out of everything, right?
Good.
close early. Good time was had by all.
Yeah.
And my husband went down there and left me, so but that's okay.
Yeah, but you have to be out. Oh, next we remind.
Okay, so we're done with the chamber report. Public is coming on that. Moving on. Item 10, Parks and Rec event schedule update. We've got the citywide yard sale on the 17th. Are there parks and rec events? That's time to clean out.
Yeah, we're closing up camp. That's exciting. We've had so many kids running around. Emily and I are going to sit down this week and next week and start kind of our fall winter programming. So,
Okay.
there's a lot that we need to start pulling together now because now that school's going back in, all the kids are going to want to go skating with their friends. And so we've got to transition from camp, do a big clean, and then get ourselves stocked and ready to start seeing that kind of upsurge. We've actually trended pretty well this summer for skating. I've been pleasantly surprised. I mean, we're not seeing the numbers we do, in the fall, winter, but we've actually done fairly well. So that's been a real positive. Emily's working on a lot of new packages, party packages, and things to really drive revenue as well. So we have the new novelty shop, we have the new kitchen. So lots of things to look forward to. We had a wonderful barn dance, and the barn dance was amazing. Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. Yeah. Yeah, I I honestly did not expect that many people. I mean, there were hundreds of people that came to it. So it was super fun. All ages. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, so that's great. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to get on their list, and they really like the sound. So that was the big thing. Was um uh yeah, yeah, that was good. Yeah,
You have to leave, Mandy.
are you guys okay if I leave? It's just it's a traffic collision.
Yep, we're
Okay.
moving on. That brings us together. Any comments on the city manager and staff report for Parks and Rec? And were there announcements from the public?
City
Thank you, Mandy.
Special meeting at 6:30 on
Uh,
Friday.
Special council meeting Friday. What is the topic? Have we been agendized yet?
It's a very small agenda. It's accepting the resignation of our city council person Elizabeth McKay and advertising for that
Vacancy.
via a closed session.
Okay. Good luck.
The whole thing was closed?
No, just
Not the beginning. Oh, the beginning. No, the announcement of her resignation, accepting it, that's all open. But the close is just the litigation point.
oh yeah. Okay. So, does the public have any comments on future agenda items or announcements? Items 11, 12. Okay. Then Justin, did you have your hand up? No. Okay. Okay. So I think we are.
Have a motion to adjourn in a
Right.
second, and you'll want to tell Mandy what happened there because since she's not here.
Okay. So that will be reflected in the minutes.
Yeah, but what I'm saying
We'll
is,
say Mandy exited after item 10.
yeah, but you still have to, when you do that, when you do your motion in second and vote for your
Adjournment.
give her a message about that. Write it down so you know who did it, so she can write it down. And the time of your
Correct.
Who seconded the motion and the time in which
We were adjourned.
Yes.
Don't you do that? Write
Yeah,
that
I
down?
write that all down.
Yeah, you don't have to tell Mandy anything. She
No.
steps.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It goes to the minute.
It goes to the minute taker,
Oh,
I think.
I didn't know you
Yeah,
were
she was
taking
secretary.
minutes. I'm sorry, I thought Mandy was. I'm
No.
sorry.
No, it'd be fine if she wants.
We will accept a volunteer. Are there any volunteers for the minutes?
Early, you should make a motion to have Mandy take her minutes.
Oh, thank you, public.
You have all the good ideas.
So do you need a motion then?
The chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I motion that we adjourn.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned at 6:20.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.